the page, we're having the most important questions answered. Maharaj, how may one... I think we've all asked ourselves this one. And here's Swami Brahmananda's answer. Through gradual practice, the mind has to be concentrated upon God. Keep a sharp eye on the mind and see that no undesirable thoughts or distractions enter it in. Whenever they try to crowd in, turn the mind toward God and pray earnestly. Through such practice, the mind is brought under control and becomes purified. I see some more people have just joined, and so I'll say again where we're starting. It's page 236. And the question is, Maharaj, how may one control the mind? Through gradual practice, okay. When you can feel and know that you are helpless and alone, that you have no other refuge but God, when you feel that you have nothing in life to look forward to, then only will devotion to God arise in you. Practice japa unceasingly. Practice it with every breath. Practice it until it becomes your second nature. Then you will find yourself chanting the name of God as you fall asleep, and again as you awaken. Know for certain that God can be reached, that his spiritual form can be seen, and that it is possible to talk to him. Practice these spiritual disciplines, and as you practice, new visions will open up, wonderful, beautiful visions. You may see many aspects of God in many splendid forms, or you may see an ocean of light or a steady flame. There is no end to this God unfoldment, this knowledge of infinite existence, infinite bliss. Light, light, more light. Therefore, engage yourself in these practices. With great earnestness, chant his name and dive deep. Learn to acquire love and sympathy toward all. Overlook the faults of others. If you cannot help an evil man to become good, of what use is your spiritual life? Learn patience. Anger is controlled through patience. Be patient, forbearing, and humble. Humility is a great aid in the building of character. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, "He who can forbear lives. He who cannot is lost." Again, he would say, "Water accumulates on low ground. When the ground is high, it runs off." There's also an Irish saying that says, taller trees grow from lower ground. In a humble man's sweetness of character and other good qualities develop naturally. Try to remember God constantly, even while you are working. In the beginning, it is a little difficult, but through practice, it becomes easy. Never give up struggling. Practice, it becomes easy. Never give up struggling. Too many rules and regulations for spiritual life are no good. The main thing is sincerity and earnestness. If these qualities are in your prayer, it will surely reach the Lord. God looks into the heart and not into the words of a man. People talk of enjoying this world, but what do they know of enjoyment? First become a god and then enjoy. Before that, all so-called enjoyments are the enjoyments of a brute. If your mind has become pure and you live with pure thoughts, no evil can touch you. Maharaj, there's a song. I want to taste sugar, but not to become sugar. Should that be the attitude of a devotee? I want to taste sugar, but not become sugar, is for the man who has not yet tasted sugar. When a devotee begins to taste the sweetness of God, he will desire to achieve oneness with him. All dreams about enlightened men are dreams about enlightened men or divine incarnations real? Yes, they are real. Dreams about enlightened souls, gods and goddesses, and divine incarnations are real experiences. They are actual visitations. Many spiritual truths are revealed to one in dreams. The effect and impression of such dreams remain, but one must not speak of them to anybody. If you wish to do good to the world, you must be perfectly selfless. Worldly people are such that often if you do them good, they will in turn try to harm you. You have heard of the great soul Vidyasagar. He lived for the good of the world, and those who were benefited by him were the very ones who spoke ill of him and tried to harm him. If he learned that someone had spoken ill of him, he would say, What have I done him any good that he does this to harm me? That is the nature of the world. But the truth of the matter is, those who are good will do good by their very nature, and those who are wicked will do harm by their very nature. Once a holy man, seated on the bank of a river, was meditating. Suddenly he saw a scorpion floating in the water. He took pity on it and with the palm of his hand scooped it out of the water. But as he did so, the scorpion stung him. The holy man suffered great pain. A few minutes later, the scorpion again fell into the water. The holy man again helped it out. Again the scorpion stung him. This happened a third time. Presently, a man who had been watching the whole thing asked, Why do you help the scorpion when it stings you again and again? The holy man replied, It is the nature of the scorpion to sting, and it is my nature to help. The scorpion does not give up its nature. Why should I give up mine? The mind that moves upward or downward, jealousy, selfishness, desire for enjoyment, laziness, etc., determine its downward motion. Faith, devotion to God, love, sympathy, etc., determine its upward motion. The chanting of the name of the Lord purifies both the body and the mind. Have intense faith in the power of God's name and meditate on him. If you chant his name, all your bonds will be broken and you will become fearless. You will find immortality. The one object of spiritual disciplines is to know God, to obtain his grace. The mud of lust and gold that stains the mind must always be washed away. Unless the heart is purified, God's grace is not revealed. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, so long as the needle is covered with mud, it is not attracted to the magnet. But when the mud has been washed away, the needle is naturally drawn toward the magnet. The mud of the mind is washed away if one thinks of the Lord and meditates on him and prays to him with a yearning heart. At once the magnet of God attracts the needle of man's mind to him. And the moment the mind becomes pure, divine grace begins to flow. Through this divine grace, God is revealed. Sri Ramakrishna used to use the illustration of the policeman's bullseye lantern, or we can say a really, really strong flashlight or headlight. With its aid, the policeman can see everyone. yet himself remains hidden. If anyone wants to see the policeman, he must ask him to turn the light upon himself. So it is with God's grace. God is the light of knowledge, and in order to obtain his grace and see him, you must pray earnestly to him to turn the light upon himself. Then only can you see him. As long as a man desires the things of the world, it is not possible for him to have any earnest desire to know God. As long as a child is absorbed in its toys, he forgets his mother. But as soon as he tires of them, he cries for her and is not happy till he sees her. Similarly, when a man tires of the playthings of the world, his heart yearns for God, and he struggles with all his mind and will to find him. The desire to live a pure and holy life does not come easily. But know this for certainty. The grace of God is upon all those in whom this desire is awakened. In the Lord man receives repeated blows. He suffers much, and yet the desire to walk the path of God does not enter his heart. He knows full well that every time he puts his hand in the fire, it will burn, but still he does it. Not only so, he uses every inducement to encourage others to do the same, and regards that man as crazy who desists. Whenever a young boy decides to live a pure life dedicated to God, it is almost certain that his parents and friends will do everything in their power to obstruct his path. If he should stray, no one cares, but if he tries to find God, everything is done to discourage him. Such is Maya. Can man know God by himself? Can the intellect grasp him? Surrender yourself to him, love him, yearn for him, seek refuge in him, be mad for him. The one purpose of life is to know God. Learn to be absorbed in him. Activity is not the goal. Work without attachment is only a means to absorption in God. Meditate and dive deep. As you dive deep, you will know that God alone is real and that everything else is unreal. When through spiritual practices a little awakening comes, do not mistake that for the goal. Do not stop. Move onward. Light, more light. Go deeper and deeper. You must see him face to face and talk to him. Enough of study and argument. Now gather the forces of your mind and direct them toward God and God only. Plunge into the ocean of bliss. Do not sacrifice eternal joy for the sake of ephemeral pleasure. Worldly pleasures will seem insipid. When you once have tasted divine bliss. You see many attractive sense objects before your eyes now, but where will they be when your eyes close in death? These objects of enjoyment lead a man from darkness to greater darkness. Which path will you take? The path that leads to darkness or the path that leads to light? Ah, my children, you have glimpsed that path of light. Do not turn back to the path of darkness. Sense attraction is strong indeed, and if you yield to it, it will create indelible impressions of evil in your mind. And before you are aware of it, the mind will drag you down and down. The only way to remain safe from sense objects is to give yourself up wholeheartedly to God. Be strong in his strength, and this very strength will free you from the net of Maya. He alone has known God's grace, who has overcome this world. The same instructions for spiritual disciplines do not apply to all. The guru studies the temperament and tendencies of the individual and instructs him accordingly. This is something I think everyone should kind of think about right now, because a tendency when we first encounter spiritual life is to read all the books we can about spiritual instructions and to kind of make a potpourri of a potpourri program for ourselves. And we take a little from this instruction, a little from that instruction. And I'll quote what Swami Sarvadevananda said. He said, "Don't edit your guru. Just do what they say. They're helping you." So it's something to watch when you're first starting out and you're not, or when you don't have a guru yet. The guru gives specific instructions to you, and they may not be the same ones he gives to the person he initiates on the same day as you. Beyond a few general rules, no individual can be told in the presence of another what particular path he should follow. I have seen, in the case of Sri Ramakrishna, how he would take each disciple aside and privately instruct him according to his needs and temperament. If you should want to ask your guru any question regarding your spiritual practices, you should do so in private. However, I will give you a few instructions which can be followed by all. First, have faith in God. Know that He is. Be firmly convinced that to realize Him is the only purpose of life. By knowing Him, man reaches eternal life and infinite happiness, and all the problems of his life are solved. Next, practice continence. Without perfect chastity, no one can hold fast to high spiritual ideals. Now, in this case, chastity for monks and nuns is one thing, complete chastity. Chastity for householders is clinging to the one you are with only, true to the one, your spiritual partner. To nourish the body, mind, and brain, and to secure their fullest development, continence is essential. In a chaste man, a special nerve is developed. With its aid, his memory, his capacity for spiritual understanding, and his faith in God increases. He is able to experience spiritual truths which lie beyond the reach of the senses. This is the reason why religious teachers stress the ideal of chastity. Thirdly, control the appetite. Take only that food which is nourishing and easily digestible. Avoid food that excites or produces lethargy. Eat very little after sunset. The brain must be kept cool in order to meditate. Eat only to keep the body healthy. Health is essential in the practice of spiritual disciplines. Do not make a show of your spiritual practices. When you meditate, meditate in secret. The most suitable hours for prayer and contemplation are those at the junction of day and night, and at midnight. Daytime has many distractions. At night, nature takes on a quiet aspect, so that nighttime is the best for the practice of contemplation. At dead of night, the mind becomes absorbed in God with very little effort. In the Gospel, I think you'll remember reading that Sri Ramakrishna would go around when his young disciples were staying with him, and he would wake them up in the middle of the night and take them to the Panchavati with him to meditate. Sri Ramakrishna never spent the night in sleep, nor would he allow his disciples to sleep long. When others had gone to bed and all was quiet, he would awaken them, give them definite instructions, and send them to the Panchavati or the temple to meditate. There they would spend the whole night in prayer as directed, and during the day they would rest. In this way, Sri Ramakrishna took them through their various spiritual exercises. He would often say, there are 3 classes of people who keep awake at night: yogis, bogies, seekers for enjoyment, and rogis, people who are sick. You are all yogis. You should never sleep at night. You are young. Strive hard to taste the divine bliss. When once you have enjoyed happiness in God, where else will you go? The moment you become absorbed in the contemplation of God, you will experience unbounded joy. Days and nights will pass away in the blissful consciousness of God. Do not speak of your spiritual moods and experiences to anyone, least of all to those of a worldly nature. It may hinder your growth. However, if you exchange your experiences with one of a like mind whose temperament is in harmony with your own, you may be helped in your progress. Both of you are travelers along the same path. It may be that your companion has already walked your path and is already aware of its pitfalls. Benefited by his experiences, you may be able to avoid those dangers and difficulties. Do you know why you should seek the society of holy men? Their experiences are a great help to a spiritual aspirant. When you visit a strange place, if you have the help of a reliable guide, you will quickly see all that is worth seeing. Also, he will save you from the dangers and difficulties into which a stranger is likely to fall. Similarly, from the company of advanced souls, you will gather many valuable hints, and your efforts will be simplified. This life may end at any moment. Nobody knows when. Equip yourself for the journey with spiritual treasures. To arrive empty-handed at an unknown place involves much suffering and sorrow. Birth is inevitably followed by death. At death, you go to an unknown place, so you must prepare yourself for the journey. Always be ready for the great call. Here you have every opportunity to grow spiritually. Struggle now to reach the reality. Hold on to the pillar. Have tremendous faith in yourself. Say to yourself, I can know God. With this faith, forge ahead and you will reach him. Then your life will be blessed. Free yourself from the wheel of birth and death. Be his eternal companion. Banish all fear and weakness. Never weaken your mind by thinking of past mistakes. Sin exists only in man's eyes. In God's eye, there is no sin. One glance of his, and the sins of many births are wiped away. You have come to Sri Ramakrishna. Hold on to him. You will have nothing to fear. Make a regular routine of your spiritual practices. You must have certain fixed hours for meditation and study. Under all circumstances, follow this routine devotedly. Steadfastness is very important. Without it, no success is possible. By steadfastness alone, the mind becomes absorbed in God. Unless absorption is achieved, freedom from the temptations of the world is not possible. Lust, anger, delusion, these are strong foes. Be strong in the strength of God and escape from this net of Maya. Follow your routine. The mind may rebel at first, but do not yield. Then gradually you will find yourselves masters of your own minds. Then when you have gained control over yourselves and your minds have become naturally absorbed in God, then you need follow no rule or routine. Life, like a stream, is ebbing fast away. The day that is once gone can never be recalled. Make the best use of your time. If you leave it till the last moment, it will be too late then to cry, alas, alas. And I think we'll stop there for this evening. That's on page 246. Does anyone have any comments or questions about anything we read? Okay. On Saturday the 14th, instead of the gospel reading here in the temple, we'll be having Swami Sarvadevananda's Bhagavad Gita class at 4:30. It'll be both Zoom, YouTube, and in person in the temple. That's this Saturday, Bhagavad Gita. And the version of the translation of the Gita that he is using is the Chidbhavananda. Sunday the 15th at 11, Swami Sarvadevananda will talk on 2 paths of exit. And then next Wednesday we will have Eternal Companion again. And I will announce the other things next Wednesday. So we'll end with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.